Joe Doyle from Clondalkin in Dublin had big plans for property, even from an early age.
I always wanted to buy houses. People would always need to live somewhere. People would always be either renting them or paying a mortgage. And that's what I always wanted to do. I can actually remember a good friend of mine says, walk over to the bank with us here. He's like, what do you want to walk over to the bank for? I want to open a bank account and I'm going to put some money in it every week. And then when I'm 18, I'm going to get a mortgage and buy a house. And then I'm going to get another one and another one and another one and another one.
Joe's exceptional focus was apparent to everyone around him.
I've known Joe around 25 years now, and as a child he was pretty much the same as he is now. He's always been business orientated. You know, where we come from, people see it as a success if you just have a job, own the house. You know, these are things that people just think is a success. But Joe just sees himself and has so much ambition that he just strives to be right over the top of that. You know, Joe just looks at the top and says, well, that's where I can go.
A desire to succeed has driven Joe in all areas of his life.
I just think there's some weird foil in my head that's tweaked, that's not in everybody, that just wants me to succeed at doing whatever I want. Or whatever I'm doing, I want to win. You know, like I want to do as best as I can, you know. I don't like doing anything by half.
The Ironman would be a typical example of Joe. But the rest of us do one Ironman. Joe goes and books in for 4 Ironman in the 1 year. The ultimate Ironman challenge, it's called. So it's the hardest challenge that anybody in the Ironman world can undertake. You know, that's just typical of Joe. He just sees something, well, there's a level above that, so we'll just aim right for the top and complete it, you know.
Joe began buying property as soon as he was old enough.
Yeah, like how I got involved in it, like I bought the house next door to my mother's house, got the mortgage there. So the next one was another piece of land and built another piece of house. While I was doing that then, I'd secured a piece of land elsewhere for one house again. That was the third one. We bunched them all together, got a remortgage, bought an apartment. That was the fourth one. I'm trying to think what the fifth one was after that then now. I remember one day I seen a specific house for sale and it was like a house with site to build other house, €450,000. So that would have been number 5, because it was building, it would have been number 6 as well. I purchased another house then with a ground to build another one, so that would have been like 7 and 8. Then I purchased a piece of land to build my own house where we live today. Like then we purchased another house and that could be changed into a shop. I knew by looking at it there that this had potential, but at the time it had potential. Done a bit of a deal, got onto the bank, applied for a mortgage, got the mortgage. All the time they were giving the money out. Bang, yeah. A few of my mates like, could be into cars, I'm not really into cars, but he'd be reading the Auto Trader, looking at the pictures of cars, you'd have an idea of price and stuff like that. That was like me with houses.
With the free-flowing money from the boom feeding his ferocious appetite, Joe had amassed a portfolio of 10 properties by the time he was 24. Despite the large amounts of money he was managing, he was modest in his spending. I've
never in my whole life borrowed 1 cent for anything other than business, ever. And you know, that's my criteria for borrowing. You know, would I borrow for a holiday? No. Would I borrow for clothes or car? No, I just wouldn't. End of story, you know.
So we were all getting well paid in our jobs and all, driving around in lovely cars. Joe was still driving around in his car that would be 5 or 6 years old, just doing these things in the background.
Because of his self-reliance, Joe was able to weather the early days of the crash better than most.
I was a very hands-on guy. I didn't use any agents, I didn't use any tradesmen, I'd done everything myself. I think things had dropped substantially before they started affecting me, because agents start getting cut out of the market for rental properties and stuff like that. People were shopping around for better insurance premiums. Tenants started getting a little bit picky here and there, like, you know. So while everybody was in hot water, I was like, no, grand, I don't know what the big deal is, you know. Yeah, I should have been more on top of it, but look, I was 21. Not that that's my age, and that is an excuse, but I wasn't as experienced enough to keep an eye on it, and this was a new thing. So I didn't know what to do about it.
As the economy worsened, Joe found himself struggling to meet bank repayments while at the same time maintaining his rental properties.
My priority was to preserve the tenancy. So first things that got paid were the utilities. Second thing, the insurance was paid, because if something went wrong, you were snookered. And then thirdly, the banks were getting paid. Now the banks wouldn't have liked that attitude, but that's what kept me going for another year or so. There was an occasional payment being missed. Then a couple of years ago, when the rates start going up, rents were dropping, boom, that's it. It was curtains then. There was nothing more that we could do. Like, no matter how hard I worked or no matter how much rent I took in, it wasn't meeting all the mortgage repayments. And the banks didn't want to listen to anybody at that stage, because Ash will be grand was the attitude. Just hold out for 12 months, you know.
Now Joe is in massive debt with no realistic chance of paying it back.
The facts about it, like, yeah, I'm 28 years of age. I owe out less than 4 million quid. The properties are worth less than 2 million. So there's a deficit of 2 million there, right? If I earn 100 grand a year for the next 40 years and give every cent back to the bank, by the time I am 68, I'll be scot-free. Yeah, brilliant. You know what I mean? So that's the facts. So that's not going to happen.
Undaunted by his circumstances, Joe is trying to build a new future for himself. Based on his own experiences as a landlord, he has set up 2 new businesses. The first assesses home insurance claims before taking care of repairs. For the second, a tenant reference website, Joe appeared on Dragon's Den and successfully secured investment from Barry O'Sullivan.
Joe, I like you. You've been kicked in the teeth a few times and you've got back
Still
up
here.
and kept
It's a good
going.
day.
I think you're kind of a model for what Ireland needs to do. And you could sit at home on your couch and phone up Joe Duffy and complain on the internet, but you're not doing that. You're doing something about it. That's amazing to me. So I'd like to offer you what you're looking for, which is 10K for 20%.
Happily accept your offer.
Buoyed by his success on Dragon's Den, Joe is keen for his business ideas to take off, but fears that his property debt will drag him down. Tommy and Sean have been asked to evaluate his situation.
He's young, he's enthusiastic, he wants to get on with things, and I'd say the natural reaction here is to go chase the next thing while he leaves behind the bit of trouble, the debris in behind, which he can't, as you say, he can't avoid. Judging from his age profile, he's borrowed over the last, say, 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years. The chances are all this property's underwater and the rent isn't going anywhere near covering interest, so you can just imagine what's left behind in there.
And you know what, Sean, right? If Joe doesn't spend time with us and with his banks in sorting that problem out, it's going to haunt him for the rest of his life.
Of course, he's got the alternative at the age of 28, hasn't he? I mean, he could head off to the UK.
Yeah, or up the road.
Or he could wait till the legislation kicks in here and go bankrupt in here, and he'll still be a young man when he comes out. Look forward to meeting him.
Tommy and Sean arrive for a fact-finding visit to Joe. Before they sit down to talk business, they're struck by his collection of Ironman medals.
Tell us about the Ironman,
That's fantastic.
or Iron Men as they are.
That was last year's expedition. You know, we took on a challenge there. We went to do a marathon. A friend of mine had one of them on as well. I was asking about it, and he says, "You know, it's a marathon, it's a swim, it's a run, and this and that." You know, so myself and a friend of mine says we'll take her up and do one. You know, and then we says we'll do 2. Sure, you know, because we were already in shape from the marathon, and then we found the challenge to do 4 of them in 6 weeks. You know, so
A lot of training for that, Joe.
oh man, it was about 30 hours a week at least.
What possessed you?
Haven't a clue.
Is it the nature of the
It's
beast?
the challenge.
It was just.
I'm looking at your,
Yeah.
I'm looking at your medal, and anything is possible,
Yeah.
and I absolutely believe in that. And fair play to you.
100%.
You're putting it into practice.
I suppose the biggest way to get me to do anything is say, I don't think you'll be able to do that.
First, they discuss Joe's 2 new businesses.
Tell me about insuranceworks.ie. What does it do?
So we're effectively a loss assessment company and a repair company into one.
And how's the business going?
It's really, really hard.
Well, golden question then, is it making money?
We pay most of the bills most of the time, yeah. It's just about, we're kind of breaking even, you know.
Tell us about tenantreference.ie, the new company.
It's a way for landlords to check out the past performance of potential tenants before they become tenants. This is my area, if you like, you know.
Next, they start to compile a statement of affairs, which is a detailed breakdown of all Joe's incomings and outgoings.
Okay, TV license, that's standard channels.
No.
Is it just the one car
They crunch the numbers on the level of debt on Joe's properties to get a greater understanding of Joe's finances. This is essential information for any future dealings with the bank.
You can see now that when we have this, we're talking facts,
Yeah,
and then we can talk strategy.
yeah,
Okay, how do we deal with this situation, right?
yeah.
So by the time we get to meet the banks,
We know
There-
every scenario, yeah.
we should know every scenario, number one, right? And number two, having gone through all those scenarios, having sat for 4 or 5 hours collectively with all the information, right? We know what our plan is. We know what our tactics are. It's very important.
Finally, Tommy and Sean visit the property investment that Joe has lost the most money on.
How many properties do you have?
10. Well, I live in one, so there's 9 rent.
And this is the only one that's
This is
not
the
completed.
the the straw that broke the camel's back, you know, the sort of way. It was the one that never went right from day one, you know.
What did you pay for it?
600 grand, 630.
And borrowed it all?
Borrowed it all.
What would it cost to get it finished?
I reckon about 120 to 130 grand max.
That'd be
130.
shell and core fitted?
Well, furnished apartment and retail unit ready to rent.
You're effectively in stalemate with the bank now, aren't you? They
We're
won't
at
give the
their
funds.
mercy.
Yeah.
Whatever they decide that they want to do, well, they've decided they want it sold. We had an agent that had an offer on it there of 70k, which is not a lot.
Well, I was just going to say that I can imagine now. Certainly, what we're seeing all around the country, Sean, with the banks is there's absolutely no way they'd give you another cent, the right cent,
Yeah,
to
definitely.
develop this, because they just want it sold. That ticks as a box. It's off their books, and from their point of view, it's kind of like going into petty powers, because they're saying, well, you're saying, well, look, if you give me 120 grand, lads, I'll get you 20 grand a year back.
Yeah.
You know, they're back into Celtic Tiger days again, you know, of gambling on that and then getting the money back, and they're not going to do that.
It's been a revealing day for Tommy and Sean. Now they need to work out a way ahead for Joe.
Next step then is information's been looked at. We'll take it away. We'll take our look at it as well. And the next meeting with Joe, we'll start to put the pieces of the jigsaw down and try and put it back together again.
Look, we'll do whatever needs to do. I'm not going to sit around here and let the mistakes of my past, you know, stop me from going forward for the rest of my days. You know, because, you know, in my nature, I'm a businessman. I build businesses or you create employment.
Imagine that you're Joe, 28 years of age, you've got all these bright ideas. The last thing you'll want is to have uncertainty around a residual bank debt there hanging over your head. You know, what incentive is there for that young man to drive his businesses on if he knows that he's going to be paying the bank off for the rest of his life?
Joe Doyle is an entrepreneur with 2 new businesses, but he's unable to grow them while he's carrying a €4 million debt from property investments he made during the boom. Tommy Murphy and Sean Dunn are assisting Joe in his attempt to reach a solution to the debt with the banks. Following their initial assessment of Joe's position, today Tommy and Sean are presenting him with possible options for engaging the bank.
From our review of this, we have 3 options open to us here. So let's write them down. Number 1 is a bank restructure, that your debt is restructured by the bank. Second option is under the new legislation in this country. You could seek to go insolvent. Okay? Seek the appointment of a personal insolvency agent or a PIP. And the third option is bankruptcy. You could simply apply to go bankrupt. And that's always been open. What we're here today to talk about and to strategise is option number 1. If you decide to go down that route, as distinct from 2 and 3, you'd be seeking separate advice on those.
So what you're doing is you're trying to develop a couple of businesses, and this is like a bloody anchor tied around your ankle, and it's holding you back. If you sell a couple of the properties, there's going to be residual debt or debt left over that you have no capacity to pay. Now, are they going to ask you to do that over the rest of your life? What age are you now? 28?
29 now.
29, right? You know, they're going to ask you to do that over the next 30 years?
If I take myself out of the equation and look at facts and figures, look at the amount of jobs that I've created and pay packets I've helped people take home every week and tax that I've paid to the economy, I'm not going to be able to build a business and grow a business if I have to keep giving everything to these banks, you know. So I think unless we agree something, like, I'm at the loss, the bank is at the loss, and so is the economy. Like,
Joe is eager to move on with his new businesses, and the strategy for the bank is quite simple: sell his properties and pay off some of the residual debt. But he doesn't want to have to pay the bank for the rest of his working life. He wants a deadline.
Well, let's not forget,
yeah,
we're here to talk about option number 1.
yeah,
Option number 3 will give you that. To go in with a strategy to say, well, I'll tell you what, I will give you X per year for the next 5 years. That's it, and then I'm out. Because you know something, if we can't agree something here, Mr. Banker, number 3 up there.
is the only option left.
Well, you're asking me to take that route where,
No,
I can, I can do either 2 or 3 up there, and I'm going to be tied up for 3 years minimum, 5 years, or 8 years maximum. I'll take that, I'm young. We're not here to recommend that, we're not here to talk about it, but you know it's there and they know it's there. So there is a sort of a bottom line that you can work towards now to say, well, listen, lads, if I can't get a better deal that has been offered there, I'm going to take that route. as much as you might want to, we might want you to.
If the bank don't want to work with Joe on establishing a time frame for repayment of his residual debt, he has the option of declaring bankruptcy, either in Ireland or the UK.
It's fair to say now he gets the full extent of the debt problem he's got, and he's got a vision of where he wants to go in the future, and now he needs to bridge the gap between the two. His decision will be interesting, which route he decides to go down. That's his decision, but I think we've pitched the best pitch for dealing with the banks and staying in the country.
Yeah.
Joe has come to Dublin Airport to learn more about what would be involved in moving to the UK and declaring bankruptcy.
You know, I don't want to have to go down this route at all, but I just think it would be silly of me not to explore, just to see the options there, see what happens, see what the process is involved and stuff like that, you know.
He's meeting Steve Thatcher, a UK bankruptcy expert.
Now, in order to go bankrupt in the UK, what you need to do, you need to establish your centre of main interest. The legislation says you need to be habitually resident in the UK. Now, to be habitually resident, that generally means that you have to move to the UK. You have to live and work there. So as well as getting accommodation, you'd need to set yourself up with a bank account, and you would also need to find a job. The courts and the official receiver will want to see that you're economically active. By the same token, it's not really necessary for you to keep a bank account here in Ireland anymore. So we go through a stage of closing those accounts down. The official receiver will allow you to keep a vehicle, but only if you need that for work. You also need to be careful about the value of that vehicle as well, because the official receiver will generally not allow you to keep a vehicle that's worth more than £1,500. If it's more than that, what he might do is take that vehicle from you, sell it to realise money for your creditors, and then give you that money back so you can buy a new car.
Can you keep your home?
It would be inconsistent, really, if you're a single person living alone, to effectively say to the UK courts, well, I am habitually resident now in the UK, but I'd like to keep my house in Ireland.
It's a complicated process, and there's real sacrifices for Joe if he's going to go through a UK bankruptcy.
It's kind of a worrying thing. Like, it's becoming a reality now that you're looking at something like that. Like, you can't be a director of a company. You know, I run 2 businesses, you know, and I can't be a director of a company. That's an issue there. If I decided to go down that route, what I would need to do was to close every bank account and everything I have, finish my life in Ireland, and then start a new one in the UK.
Faced with the option of engaging with the banks in a long process of negotiation and possibly having to pay off his outstanding debt for years, or moving to the UK and declaring bankruptcy, Joe has to make one of the toughest decisions of his life.
The easiest option probably for me now to get a date when this whole thing is going to be finished would be to go to the UK and apply for bankruptcy there. I don't want to do that for a number of reasons. You know, if we look at it from a business perspective, it's going to be, well, my business will be gone. I'll have to get rid of any business that I have, because you can't be a director of a company. But the biggest issue for me is the thoughts of it. I've never ran away from anything ever, and whether that's in my business life, my personal life, any sports or any leisure, anything I do at all, like I don't see myself as somebody willing to run away when something goes the way you don't want it to go. And you know, I think it's not for me. I'm educated now, so I know exactly what's involved and what I can do, and I'm not going to do it.
Having decided to stay in Ireland and work through his debt with the bank, Joe meets with Tommy and Sean to proceed with bank negotiations. Today, the 3 of them are having their first but by no means last meeting with the bank.
The meeting was very matter of fact. There was a lot of straight talking by all people involved, and I'm just happy that they were willing to meet us when we told them we have a problem, as in now the next thing is to see where we're going. Basically, we were to go away and come back to them with a proposal, and that's where we're at present.
With Tommy and Sean working on a proposal for the bank, Joe is in Galway to meet with Barry O'Sullivan, who invested in his new business on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, so what have you been up to?
I've been busy,
Yeah.
really busy.
Good.
Yeah, we've done a lot of good things since the last time we met. Obviously then I'm trying to deal with this issue with the banks.
Seems like you want to get those things off your plate and focus on the future, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you want to spend your time in the morning when you get out of bed trying to build your business and make progress.
Imagine like a few years' time, loads of customers, successful business, employing people in Ireland. That'd be fantastic.
You know, tenant reference started off as an idea.
Yeah.
Now it's an idea, an office, a business, a website that has customers, that has users. And soon enough, hopefully, we can keep pushing at that. It will have profits and all the good things that come with that.
Absolutely.
But we keep going.
Well, he's got a lot on his plate, obviously. So, tenant reference isn't getting all of his brain, right? I think there'll be no stopping of it. If we could get all of his energy pointed at that, I could see tenant reference growing to be a big company employing tens, if not hundreds of people here in Ireland in good quality high-tech jobs, and we know we need more of that.
Joe has his sights firmly set on the future. Tommy and Sean have a new proposal that should satisfy the bank that Joe can still pay off his debt after he has sold his properties.
All I want to do is to be allowed to stay in this country and build my business. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to leave the country. I don't want to have to go into some 8-year scheme or anything like that. I just want to be allowed to get up in the morning and go and build my business. You know what I mean? But business is a long-term thing. You know.
Do you let me throw it back to you? I'd put a bank hat on here and say, okay, I'd accept the value of the asset as sold.
Yeah.
It's worth what it's worth today. And for the next 5 years, I want profits of your business. And after that, I'll write off any residual debt left, if there is any. What do you think of that?
I don't think that would be fair.
Why?
Why would I want to do that? Like I'm going to need to keep something to cover myself, salary.
No, it's after salary. So it's the bottom line profits. It's after you've paid all the salary, all the costs of the business. It's the surplus funds in the business. If your business doesn't grow, you're treading water still, regardless of the bank. However, the projections of the business, and if you give a percentage there, you'd say, well, listen, there's X percent. If my business grows like this, here's what you're going to get back. So you're taking pain, you're not getting your... But the incentive to grow your business is there.
It's still there.
And then after year 5, and we're cutting off at year 5, you're on your own.
Yeah. Look, let's dispose of everything, give them what we can. I'm happy with the fact that I can stay here and continue to build my business, and I'm not completely disincentivized for doing that. So I think we should do nothing to stop me growing either of those businesses and push them as much as we can and give them whatever we can. And all that we can give them is and that's all I can give is whatever we can. I can't give them anything we don't have.
And I think the proposal we've talked about here now is fair on both sides. You're taking pain, they're taking pain, which is a good outcome. I think we've got enough now. We can go away and write the proposal, can't we?
Joe is willing to do whatever it takes to move on with his life.
We've looked at his business over the next number of years, and Joe is prepared to give up a percentage of his profits for the next 5 years, with the rest of the debt being written off. So basically, he's going to be working for the next 5 years for the bank. That gives him an incentive to grow his business, because post that, it's his. But he knows he's going to take some serious pain over that time.
For a lad at 29, I was surprised. The easy option here for that man to take the boat across the border, and this has all gone away in 12 months' time. And fair play to him.
What will the banks do? This is going to be tough. This is going to be a tough thing to get across the line with them, no question about it, because it's new to them and they are taking a lot of pain on their side. So we have a battle ahead of us to go into the banks. But if anyone is up for this, Joe is.